The antiseptic scent of disinfectant burned his nose. Bobby blinked hard against the harsh overhead light, a sterile ceiling coming into blurry focus. His head throbbed as if someone had driven a chisel through his skull. He tried to sit up, but a stabbing pain in his side froze him. Tubes, monitors, IV, hospital. A nurse rushed in. "Dr. Bobby, you're awake." Her voice trembled with excitement. "We were worried. You've been unconscious for days." He looked around, struggling to process anything. What happened? "You were in a car accident 3 days ago. They brought you in just in time." Bobby frowned. His memories felt like puzzle pieces dumped onto the floor. Some pieces were sharp and clear, like leading the cardiothoracic team at Geneva Medical, getting his final acceptance from the Swiss Fellowship, the smell of surgical gloves, the adrenaline of emergency bypass procedures. But beyond that, nothing. He blinked again. "Where am I?" "Trinity Memorial, local hospital." "Local?" Before he could ask anything more, the nurse added, "I'll inform your wife. She's been waiting outside since the accident." What? But she was already gone. A few minutes later, the door opened. A woman in a pristine charcoal blazer walked in, heels muted on the tiled floor. Her face was stunning, high cheekbones, red lipstick, not a hair out of place, but her expression was unreadable. No tears, no joy, just calm detachment. She stood by his bedside. "You're awake." He stared at her. Her features tugged at something distant, but no memory rose. "Do I know you?" She blinked. Her lips parted slightly, but her voice remained composed. "Bobby, it's me, Martha." He waited. Silence stretched. She added, "Your wife." The words hit like a blunt force trauma. "My what?" She didn't flinch. "We've been married 3 years." He tried to laugh, but his throat was dry. "That's not possible." "It is." Her voice was so calm it was chilling. "You can check the records. I'll have our lawyer bring the certificate." No, I was supposed to fly to Zurich, my fellowship, cardiac robotics." "You gave that up," she replied smoothly. Bobby's breath caught in his throat. "Why the hell would I give that up?" "For me?" Her tone softened barely. "You said long distance wouldn't work. You stayed. You chose a simpler life here." He stared at her like she was a stranger who had stolen his reflection. "I was the youngest associate chief in my field. I had 5 recommendation letters from Nobel winners. You're saying I dropped all of that, for a marriage I don't even remember?" "Yes." Her eyes didn't waver, but they looked tired, as if this wasn't the first time she'd defended herself. He shook his head. "I don't know who you are." "You're suffering from retrograde amnesia," she said clinically, as if reading off a chart. "The doctors say your memory stops about 3 years ago. Everything from then till now is missing." Martha glanced at her watch. "I have a board meeting in an hour. I'll come by this evening." She turned to leave. He called after her. "Wait, what do I do now?" "You rest. The hospital says you can be discharged tomorrow." "No," he snapped. "I mean, what do I do with you?" She paused at the door. "That's up to you," she said, without turning back. The door closed. Bobby leaned back into the pillows, heart racing. Married, to a woman who looked like she practiced emotions the way others practiced speeches. His mind screamed for logic, for order, for surgical clarity, but all he had were missing years, and a ring on his finger. The taxi pulled up to a modern high-rise in the heart of the city, its glass facade gleaming under the afternoon sun. Bobby stepped out, wearing a loose hospital hoodie and a fresh bandage under his shirt. The air smelled sterile, just like the private hospital suite he'd left that morning. Martha stood waiting by the building's entrance, black slacks, beige silk blouse tucked in perfectly, her phone in one hand and a closed expression in the other. She barely glanced at him before swiping the security card and holding the door open. "This is home?" he asked, as they entered the elevator. "Yes." Her tone was flat, as usual. "Top floor." The elevator chimed and opened into a private apartment. He stepped out and stopped cold. Black, white, steel. The entire place looked like a magazine showroom, spotless, minimal, and soulless. No family photos, no warm lighting. No color except the cold shimmer of marble countertops and gray leather furniture. The scent of citrus cleaner clung to the air like armor. This looks more like a hotel lobby than a home, he muttered. Martha ignored the comment. Your room is down the hall, second door on the right. He dropped his hospital bag onto the couch. Our room, you mean? She paused. You insisted on sleeping separately a year ago. You said it helped you focus. Right, because I must have loved sleeping in a vacuum. He ran his hand along the countertop. Did I even pick any of this furniture? You approved the designs, she said. Or, more accurately, you said, whatever makes you happy, Martha. His laugh was short and bitter. Sounds about right. He walked to the fridge. A neat row of takeout containers stared back. Chinese, Thai, protein shakes, 2 bottles of white wine, untouched. Don't we cook? I don't have time, and you used to say hospital food killed your appetite. Did I ever say anything about what you cook? She didn't answer. Bobby stepped into what used to be his office, sleek desk, empty shelves, a calendar filled with post-its written in Martha's handwriting, pick up dry cleaning, board meeting 8 a.m., client dinner with Mr. Gabriel, RSVP. He opened the drawers, neatly filed legal case printouts, a tablet with courtroom apps installed, a stapler. No surgical journals, no med texts, no trace of the man who used to spend nights studying valve suture techniques and robotic incisions. He turned back to her. You said I chose this, to stay, to help you. You did. He gestured around them. This doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like I disappeared into your routine. She leaned on the kitchen island. You said you didn't want to be one of those couples who barely spoke across time zones. You said this place, this life, was enough. Enough for who? He asked. Martha's phone buzzed. She checked it instantly. Work? She nodded. Client files. I'm sure I helped with those too. You used to read over my contracts and summarize them. Said it relaxed you. He rubbed his eyes. Summarizing lawsuits for a living. Brilliant way to kill a brain built for surgery. Martha's voice stayed calm. You weren't happy at the provincial hospital. Long hours, endless pressure. You said you were burning out. And what am I now? He asked. A houseplant with a license. You're a respected attending physician at the municipal hospital. No call shifts, no media attention, good work-life balance. No prestige, no growth, no future. Silence. He stepped back, letting the words hang. You know what the funniest part is? He said. I don't even remember giving it all up. I just woke up one day and found out I'd signed away my future like a dotted line contract, and I don't even remember why. Martha's shoulders tensed. Because you loved me. He looked at her. Did I? She flinched, just barely. You used to bring me coffee when I pulled all-nighters, she said. You packed my courtroom bags. You sat in the car for hours waiting outside client offices. You were my anchor. No, he corrected. I was your assistant. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is that I gave up heart surgery for this, for a woman who talks like a closing argument. Martha's expression finally cracked. You think this was easy for me? I work 16-hour days. I'm responsible for 24 staff, a firm, and a reputation. You think I had time for flowers and cuddles? I didn't need flowers, he said softly. I needed a partner. She looked away. He walked past her to the living room wall. A single wedding photo hung there, perfectly framed, perfectly composed. She wore a sleek white gown, he wore a navy tuxedo. Neither of them smiled. We look like actors posing for a merger announcement. He turned back toward her. Tell me something real, Martha. Tell me there was love in any of this. Her eyes shimmered, just for a second, but her voice didn't falter. There was. Then where is it now? She opened her mouth, but the doorbell interrupted. She checked her phone. That must be Gabriel. I scheduled a quick meeting. He froze. Gabriel? A business associate. We co-manage a few accounts. He helped during the merger. He stared at her, but she was already walking to the door. I'll be in the study. The door clicked shut behind her. Bobby sank into the couch, trying to process everything. He looked down at his hands. These were hands that used to hold scalpels, clamp arteries, stitch vessels smaller than threads. Now they carried takeout and highlighted legal clauses. Who was he now? And who was the woman in the other room, the one who called herself his wife but couldn't even look him in the eyes? The silence in the apartment set down on him like the air in an operating theater before the first incision. He didn't know the answers, but he knew one thing: this wasn't the life he remembered choosing. The event was held at the city's most prestigious 5-star hotel. Bobby adjusted the cuff of his borrowed suit, the tie unfamiliar around his throat. He stood beside Martha in the marble lobby, feeling more like a chauffeur than a husband. Her silver evening gown shimmered under the chandelier light, her hair twisted into a precise updo. She hadn't looked at him once since they left the apartment. "Just stand beside me and smile if anyone asks questions," she said, her voice calm, controlled. "Is that what I am now, a PR accessory? I don't have time for sarcasm, Bobby." The ballroom doors opened and they stepped inside. Music, murmurs, champagne, and polished smiles filled the space. Bobby recognized no one, everyone recognized Martha. She floated from group to group, law partners, investors, officials, speaking with precision and effortless authority. Bobby kept his distance, nodding when necessary, invisible otherwise. "Willow," a voice rang out. A tall man in a dark velvet suit strode across the floor, his presence magnetic. Bobby's eyes narrowed. "Gabriel." Martha turned, her expression softening, not forced, not polite, genuinely soft. She smiled in a way Bobby hadn't seen since waking up. "You look stunning tonight," Gabriel said, bending to kiss her cheek, as always. She chuckled. "You're late." "I had to pick up something special," he said, eyes gleaming. Gabriel turned to Bobby. "And you must be the good doctor, Martha's husband." Bobby extended a hand. "Bobby." Gabriel's grip was firm, smug. "I've heard so much about you. I wish I could say the same." Gabriel laughed, clearly amused. They made their way to the center of the hall where the charity auction was about to begin. A host in a tuxedo took the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's final item is something truly rare, a pair of blue diamond earrings from the Shimizu collection, donated anonymously. Esses. Starting bid, 1 million. A murmur rippled through the crowd. 1.5, a voice called out. 2, someone else added. Bobby sipped his champagne, barely listening. Then Gabriel raised his paddle. 3 million. More gasps. Bobby blinked. "He's joking, right?" 4 million, a woman in red countered. Gabriel didn't flinch. 5. The room fell silent. 6, the woman tried, voice shaky. Gabriel raised an eyebrow. 8. The room erupted. Going once, twice, sold, to Mr. Gabriel. Polite applause echoed. Gabriel turned to Martha with a showman's flourish. "For the most brilliant partner I've ever had, a gift to match your brilliance." The crowd turned, flashbulbs went off. Martha froze, her expression caught between stunned and flattered. Bobby stared at her. "Tell him to take it back." She opened her mouth but said nothing. Gabriel smiled. "Come on, Dr. Bobby, it's just a friendly gesture, surely you don't mind." "I do," Bobby said. "I mind a lot." The air shifted. "I don't think an $8 million gift is casual," Bobby continued, locking eyes with Gabriel, "and I don't think my wife needs jewelry from another man to validate her brilliance." "Is it really about the jewelry?" Gabriel said smoothly, "or are you just feeling outmatched?" "Gabriel," Martha's voice cut in sharp, "that's enough." Bobby turned to her. "You won't return it? I didn't ask for it, but you didn't reject it either." "We're leaving," she said, grabbing Bobby's wrist and dragging him out of the ballroom. They didn't speak until they reached the car. She slid into the passenger seat. Bobby drove in silence. Halfway home, he broke. "How long has this been going on?" "What?" "The flirting, the gifts, the way you look at him." "I don't look at him any particular way." "You smiled tonight, Martha. I didn't know you even remembered how." "Don't twist this. Then tell me. Was there ever a point in the last 3 years where you thought of me as anything more than an assistant with a medical license?" She turned toward the window. "I gave up my future for you," he said quietly. "And I don't even remember why. I must have loved you, Martha, deeply, desperately, because that's the only way I'd throw away everything for a life like this." She closed her eyes. "I go to work and doctors pity me. I walk beside you and investors talk around me. I come home and I sleep in a guest room." His voice cracked. "So tell me, was there ever any love in this marriage?" "Yes," she said finally, her voice low. "Yes, Bobby, there was." He pulled over abruptly, putting the car in park. She stared straight ahead. You asked me why you gave it all up. The truth is, I asked you to. I told you I couldn't do long distance. I told you if you went to Switzerland, it was over. His breath left him. I was afraid, she admitted. Not of losing the relationship, of losing you. I've never depended on anyone in my life. I've built everything with my own hands. But when you told me about the fellowship, I panicked. She finally turned to face him. I couldn't bear the thought of you leaving, so I used every word I had to make you stay, and you did. He said nothing. Sir. He exhaled. It was wrong, I know that now. I was selfish, and I've never said sorry, not even once. The silence filled the car. He stared at the steering wheel, heart thudding. I don't know what hurts more, that you manipulated me, or that I let you. Martha looked down, her hands trembled in her lap. He pulled the car back onto the road. Neither of them spoke the rest of the way home. The municipal hospital cafeteria smelled like reheated soup and institutional regret. Bobby sat alone at the back corner table, stirring his coffee without drinking it. He'd barely slept, his mind was stuck in a loop, the gala, Gabriel, the earrings, Martha's confession. A shadow fell over the table. Dr. Bobby? He looked up. The woman standing in front of him had soft eyes behind round glasses, her chestnut brown hair pulled into a low ponytail. Her expression was hesitant, gentle, like someone afraid to wake an old dream. It's me, Marie. The name clicked before the face did. Images flared, glimpses of an operating room, the steady rhythm of instruments being handed, the calm confidence of a partner who anticipated every move. Marie, he said slowly. From the provincial hospital, she nodded, offering a cautious smile. I was your surgical assistant for nearly 4 years. He stood awkwardly. Sorry, my memory's still blurry. I had an accident. I heard, she said gently. I wasn't sure if I should come, but when I found out you were back at the municipal, I couldn't stay away. He gestured to the chair. Please, sit. She did. For a moment, they just sat in the buzz of the cafeteria noise, the quiet between them warm instead of empty. I saw your name on the team list for that emergency dissection case last week, she said. You handled it like no one else could. He looked at her, surprised. You saw that? I was assisting in radiology on the 3rd floor. Word spread fast. They said you were a ghost with a scalpel. Bobby gave a small laugh. I don't even remember the techniques I used. My hands did what my mind couldn't recall. That's because it's in you, not just memory, instinct. He glanced down. I feel like a ghost of who I was. Everyone keeps telling me what I used to be, but it's like listening to someone else's legend. She hesitated. Do you? What? And to know more? He nodded slowly. Marie opened her purse and pulled out a slim envelope. I wasn't sure you'd believe me, so I brought this. Inside were printed pages, conference rosters, surgical reviews, one medical journal cover with his name listed under contributors, Robotics in Cardiovascular Surgery, Volume 6. You were supposed to co-author this textbook, she said softly. It was your project, your vision. You had 2 chapters already outlined. He stared at the page. Why didn't it happen? You dropped out, she said. After you married Martha. His breath caught. I remember when you told the team, Marie went on. You said you wanted to build a quieter life, that you'd found something more important than surgery. He looked up at her, and there was no accusation in her gaze, only sadness. You were brilliant, Bobby, not just good, brilliant. People came from other hospitals to observe your surgeries. You were being tracked for a national surgical award. You had offers to teach, but then one day, you just faded out of the spotlight. He rubbed his temple, the same ache returning. Everyone tells me I chose this life, that I was tired, burned out. You weren't, she said. You were happy, exhausted, yes, but alive. He closed the envelope slowly. I remember the night you assisted me on that triple bypass, he said. The one that lasted 10 hours. I don't remember every detail, but I remember your voice, steady, reassuring. She smiled faintly. You said I had the quietest hands you'd ever seen. You did. He paused. You still do. Marie looked away, then back at him. I'm not here to confuse you, or interfere. I wanted you to remember who you were. I'm starting to. They sat in silence again. Finally, he asked, why now? Because I've watched you disappear for 3 years, she said quietly. From afar. I watched you shrink your world to fit into someone else's. I thought, maybe now, if you could see yourself again, maybe you'd come back. He studied her face. Marie. I'm not asking you to leave Martha, she said quickly. This isn't about that. I just want you to stand tall again. He swallowed. You've been waiting this whole time? She nodded. Yes. That's a long time. I didn't wait for you to come back to me, she whispered. I waited for you to come back to yourself. His eyes burned. For the first time in weeks, something in his chest loosened. Not romantic heat, not confusion, just clarity. The clarity of someone seeing you, not as who you've become, but who you were meant to be. He stood. Walk with me? She smiled. Always. They walked through the back garden of the hospital, just like they used to after night shifts, when the world was quiet and the sky was dark blue. I don't know what's ahead, he said. Everything's tangled, but you helped me remember what matters. She stopped near the bench. Promise me one thing, she said. Anything. When you go back into that OR, when you feel the scalpel in your hand again, don't think about the life you gave up, think about the one you still have. He nodded. She gently touched his wrist, the same way she used to hand him clamps during surgery, soft, grounded. Then she turned to leave. He watched her walk away, a silhouette in the sunlight. Not a temptation, a reminder. He turned back toward the hospital. There was work to do. The first article appeared late on a Wednesday evening. Bobby found it by accident while scrolling through his phone, a headline catching his eye. From prodigy to placeholder, is Dr. Bobby Lou still fit for the OR? He tapped on it. The piece wasn't overtly slanderous, it was worse, it was insidious. Written in the tone of faux concern, it questioned how a once promising cardiac surgeon had mysteriously vanished from the medical scene only to quietly reappear at a minor municipal hospital. It cited unnamed colleagues who worried about his competence after years of inactivity. It raised doubts about whether his recent emergency operation had been reckless and suggested he only kept his license through well-placed connections. By morning, there were 3 more articles. By noon, reporters stood outside the hospital entrance with cameras, hoping to catch Bobby on break. Dr. Bobby, do you deny the allegations of surgical negligence? Is it true your marriage to Martha Liu helped cover up malpractice? Did you leave the provincial hospital due to a scandal? He said nothing. Just pushed past the crowd and entered the building. Inside, nurses looked up from stations, staff averted their gaze. A junior surgeon whispered as he passed, didn't think they'd go this far. Lillian caught up with him by the elevators. This is ridiculous, you shouldn't have to walk through this. They'll forget about it next week, he muttered. No, they won't, she said, not if someone keeps feeding them stories. He already knew who. That afternoon, his HR manager called him in. The hospital was launching a quiet internal review, just a formality, they assured, but the press pressure was getting to the board. By evening, Martha stormed into his office. Why didn't you tell me? She snapped, dropping a printout of the latest article on his desk. You were in meetings, I didn't want to interrupt. Her eyes burned. This isn't just about you, Bobby. This is about your name. Our name. He stood. You think I wrote the damn articles? No, she said, but I know who did. He waited. Her voice dropped. Gabriel came to my office this morning, said the rumors could all go away if I accepted a long-term advisory role with his firm. Bobby stared at her. He actually said that? He said your reputation wasn't stable anymore, that I needed to start separating our profiles, legally and publicly. He laughed once, bitter. The man's efficient, attacks me, then offers you a life raft. Martha's eyes narrowed. He's underestimating the wrong people. You told him no? I told him to go to hell. Silence passed between them. He turned to the window. There's something I need to ask. What? How long were you and Gabriel involved? She didn't speak right away. He turned to face her. Her shoulders tightened. We were engaged. 5 years ago. Before you. The words dropped like weights in his chest. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I ended it, because it didn't matter. It matters now, he said. I just got dragged through the digital mud by a man who once had your ring on his finger. Her voice cracked. I thought it would stay in the past. You thought wrong. He walked out. That night, he sat alone on a park bench, city lights swimming in his peripheral vision. He couldn't escape the image of Gabriel raising that auction paddle, watching Martha with smug entitlement. It wasn't just about money or power. Gabriel wanted to erase him, not just from Martha's life, but from the record, from memory. His phone buzzed. Marie. I saw the articles. Don't believe a word. You were a legend before any of this. He stared at the message for a long time. Back home, the apartment was dark. Martha was in the study, door closed. He didn't knock. Instead, he stood in front of their wedding photo again, the one that had never felt real. He looked at his expression. Vacant. Like a man halfway to vanishing. The surgery request came not through a hospital memo but directly delivered by the personal assistant of Victor Chang, CEO of Evotech Pharmaceuticals. The irony didn't miss Bobby. Evotech was the company that had signed exclusive R&D partnerships with Gabriel's firm. The same Gabriel who'd been leaking stories, twisting headlines, and sowing doubt in every corner of Bobby's life. Now, their CEO needed him. A severe ascending aortic dissection, rare, deadly, time-sensitive. Why me? Bobby had asked. The assistant had hesitated. Because his last words were, find the one surgeon who won't need to be told twice. Within hours, the boardroom became a battlefield. Too political, warned Lillian. Gabriel will spin it. If you fail, then I fail publicly, Bobby cut in. But if I say no, I'm everything they've accused me of. He signed the papers. The hospital board tried to hide it. No press, no announcements, but the surgery got leaked. Of course it did. By the time Bobby scrubbed in, a live stream was running through closed internal channels and a dozen reporters lined the sidewalk. As he walked toward the operating room, Gabriel appeared, leaning casually against the glass. Quite the comeback moment, Gabriel smirked. Sure you're up for it, Dr. Placeholder? Bobby met his gaze. I'm not doing this for you. No, Gabriel said, voice low. You're doing it for her. That's always been your flaw. Bobby walked past him without a word. Inside the OR, silence reigned. The team had been briefed. He'd assembled every name he trusted. No dead weight, no onlookers, just skill and precision. The patient's vitals were already unstable. The aneurysm had ruptured a portion of the vessel wall. Bobby inhaled. Let's begin. It took 5 hours. 2 complete bypasses. 3 reanastomoses. Microscopic sutures on aortic tissue thinner than paper. The kind of procedure where your HUI and doesn't just need steadiness, it needs memory. Every move, every second, felt like walking a wire between revival and ruin, and yet, he didn't falter. Not once. When the final clamp was removed and blood pulsed through the reconstructed aorta, the OR nurse whispered, "Perfusion stable." He stepped back, sweat trickling down his temple. Victor Chang lived, and so did Bobby. The media exploded. Fallen surgeon redeems himself in miracle procedure. Dr. Liu saves Evotech CEO, Gabriel Lin's ties under review. From scandal to savior, the comeback of a cardiothoracic genius. By morning, the hospital reinstated him, no review required. By noon, Evotech's board voted to suspend Gabriel's firm pending ethics investigations. By evening, Bobby stood in his apartment's doorway, shoulders tense. The lights were off, but the screen across the room glowed with paused footage, frame frozen mid-surgery, his eyes behind the surgical visor. Martha sat curled on the couch, still in her office suit, arms wrapped around her knees. She didn't look up when he entered. I watched all 5 hours, she said quietly. Every second. He remained still. I didn't breathe until they wheeled him out, not once. He crossed the room and sat across from her. You didn't have to, he said softly. Yes, I did. A pause. I always thought, she began, voice barely above a whisper, that love meant proving myself, controlling every outcome, never letting anything fall out of place, especially you. Bobby's voice cracked gently. And I always thought love meant sacrificing for someone, even if it erased who I was. She turned to him then, tears silently falling. I didn't know what I was asking you to give up, until I saw who you were in that OR. He looked at her, really looked. Not through resentment, not through the fog of memory loss, but as a man rebuilding himself from rubble. You never saw who I was before, he said. You only saw the parts that fit your plan. I see you now, she whispered. He hesitated. I want to believe that, he said, but I don't know if I can yet. More silence. Then she reached forward, slowly, hesitant like someone touching something fragile. Their hands met, fingers tightened. She leaned into him, he let her. Not because everything was healed, not because the past was erased, but because something inside both of them had shifted. Not perfect, but real. The resignation letter was short, less than a paragraph. Martha submitted it during a board meeting and walked out without waiting for questions. They said she was crazy. That no woman in her position walks away from a billion-dollar company just to work on her marriage. She didn't care. For the first time in years, she wasn't powering toward a merger, a press conference, or a deal. She was just Martha, wife, soon-to-be mother, and someone finally trying to make things right. They moved to a smaller apartment near the coast, nothing extravagant, just open space, morning light, and no silent walls watching their distance. Bobby returned to surgery full-time, but this time, with boundaries. He declined media interviews, focused on robotic surgical development, quietly co-authored that textbook he once abandoned. For a while, things felt peaceful, whole, until the letter came, a formal complaint, filed by Gabriel Lynn, alleging malpractice during the Evotech procedure. Bobby stared at the envelope in his hands, nausea curling in his gut. He's trying to sink me before he goes down, Bobby murmured. Martha didn't flinch. Then, in a tone he hadn't heard in months, steel hidden beneath velvet, she said, "Then let's make sure he goes down first." Martha reactivated her bar license and called in every silent favor she had left from her legal days. By the end of the week, she had a team. She dug through the paperwork herself, hours at the table, legal pads covered in red ink and timelines. She spoke with hospital staff, subpoenaed communication logs, reviewed OR footage again and again, and she found it. Emails between Gabriel and a former hospital staffer, suggesting payment in exchange for filing an anonymous complaint. He hadn't just accused Bobby, he'd tried to frame him. Martha brought it to court, filed a counter-motion, and named Gabriel as a defendant in a civil case for defamation, medical interference, and attempted bribery. When the hearings began, the courtroom wasn't silent, it was electric. Reporters lined the halls, whispers flew like wildfire. Gabriel, once polished and arrogant, now looked haggard, his smile forced, his suit wrinkled, his eyes flicked nervously every time Bobby entered the courtroom. Bobby never looked at him, he only looked at the judge, but it wasn't Martha's closing argument that sealed the case. It was Marie. She took the stand, calm and composed in a simple blouse and slacks, her voice never wavered. "I was approached by one of Gabriel Lynn's team members," she testified. "He offered me money to sign a statement questioning Dr. Liu's capability. I refused." "And why did you refuse?" Marie looked at Bobby, then at the jury. "Because I worked under Dr. Liu for 5 years, I saw lives saved by his hands. I waited in silence for 3 years after he left, hoping he'd return to the OR. If there's one thing I know, it's that you do not question his skill, not unless you're afraid of it." Gabriel's attorney objected. But it was too late. The courtroom believed her. The court ruled in Bobby's favor. Gabriel's medical partnerships dissolved overnight. He was indicted for attempted fraud and obstruction of justice. His empire, gone. No one threw a party, no confetti fell from ceilings, just a quiet silence when justice lands, too heavy for applause. A year passed. Bobby stood in front of a crowd, spotlights warm against his skin, as his name was announced for the National Award in Robotic Surgical Innovation. He stepped up to the podium in a navy suit, tie tucked neat, posture straight. His colleagues stood, doctors, administrators, students. They applauded a man who once gave everything up, and earned it all back. But Bobby didn't look at them. He looked toward the third row, where Martha sat, her arm wrapped around a tiny bundle, their baby girl. Martha's eyes shimmered with pride, tears held back only by the quiet strength she'd learned to wear. The baby cooed softly in her lap, unaware of the storm her parents had survived. Bobby smiled, gently. He didn't say much at the mic. Just one thing. I once gave up everything for you, but today I'm living for myself, with you beside me. That's love. Martha mouthed something back. Always beside you. And this time, it was true.